took responsibility and if folks just, I mean, I know red flag laws are controversial, but if folks just, the very best thing is if you see a family member hurting and suicidal, that you go to that family member and say, can I store your guns for a while till you get past this? People do that. That happens. It saves lives. If we can tell people to speak up and say something, but it also requires educating people about how deadly and lethal firearms are and just be open and honest about it. Yes, people enjoy guns in this country and they're going to continue enjoying guns, and that's fine, but they're also used in suicides and mass shootings and murders too. So we have to be very careful with that. And so if our local, you're correct, Councilwoman, of course, that there's certain limitations on what the cities can do. But the best thing cities can do is educate, like the safe storage. Lost and stolen guns. We've had 1,000 guns a year stolen out of cars in Austin. I think that's the stat. Every time that happens, there's another criminal with a gun. Let's educate people about not keeping your guns unlocked in your cars or throwing them under a sweater. Let's talk to people about, hey, your teen's suicidal. You may want to just move that gun from your top closet where your kid might know about it and lock it up. All of those things that we can do, but we need to be able to be honest about it. We did a little research and went on our city's a lot better about it. Our state websites, they don't even like to put the word firearm on there or say gun. They don't like to. I feel like it's just not straightforward.
I want to say I agree with you, and I want to go even one step forward with what you said on people getting their guns stolen out of their cars. If you get your gun stolen out of your car, that means you didn't secure it properly, and you should not only you should be held responsible for that. Literally to the point where you should either not be allowed to buy another gun for a period of time or be charged with a partial bit of the crime that's committed with the gun that you allowed to get stolen, because people should be storing their guns safely, whether it's in a locked box or in their home. You should never leave your gun in a place where somebody else, especially a criminal, can get their hands on it.
One quick thing to that end, I carry a gun. I carry a gun on my person at all times. You know why? I always know where it is. No kid is going to get it. It's not in the console of my truck out there so somebody can smash it and grab the window. It's not in the console when I leave it for valet. It's on my person. It's about securing your firearm. And if there's anything that comes out of this, somebody watching, if you got kids at home, lock the guns up, put them away, make them safe in some manner that works for that kid. And when you have kids visit as well, don't leave the damn firearm in your car, ever.
All right, so I want to make sure we have enough time to get all of your thoughts on this, and we'll start with the Cantor family. This has been a really robust conversation with a lot of ideas thrown out there. What's the one thing you want to see legislatively? I know y'all aren't from Texas, so maybe at the federal level or in your state. And where would you be willing to compromise on that one ask that you have?
I mean, if I had to make one ask, well, it's kind of a two-part ask. It's prosecution is the headline. Prosecuting everyone involved, meaning the guy whose gun was stolen from where the criminal got it from, he needs to face some sort of penalty for allowing his gun to get stolen. Secondly, prosecuting the criminals who commit the crime. I mean, there were 14 people involved, 10 to 14 people involved in the shooting, meaning there were two gangs, and we don't have every person that was in there, but basically it was anywhere from 10 to 14 people, gang members, that were there shooting at each other, or one person shot at the other gang. Bottom line is only one person is being held accountable, and based on the facts, there's charges to go around for all of them, just about every single one of them, based on their testimonies, and yet one person is on trial for the murder of my brother, and that's just not accurate. I mean, you're basically saying that it's okay.
There were more people responsible.
Yeah, what the DA is basically saying is that all the other actions were okay. It's just the one guy that happened to shoot my brother. He's going to take the fall for everyone in the whole group's, in both groups' actions, and that's not okay, because the other 13 or 9 people that were involved are going to be out on 6th Street, and they have been for the last year doing the same thing.
I mean, just building on what Nick said, you sort of have an epidemic of DAs that are rolling back penalties. So if you're caught with a gun and you're in a gang, you're not getting the added benefit of more time or even a stiffer penalty because you're a gang member with a gun. So there's a lot of inconsistency with the DAs all over the country. Some want to prosecute but can't, or a lot of prosecutors want to prosecute, but the DAs are holding them back. And we get that feeling here, honestly, because the DA himself said there's certain crimes that he doesn't want to prosecute for or give long penalties for. Well, that doesn't discourage anybody from committing crimes. Basically, they're committing them, they're out the next day, and the police are doing their jobs. I mean, we spent an enormous amount of time with the police and the detectives in Austin, and these guys are dying to do their job. But how do you do it? If I arrest Mike, he's out the next day. Mike could put a bullet in my head because I arrested him, 3 hours earlier. The DAs need to really get it together.
What's your one ask for legislation?
I would say real common sense about firearms, because that's one thing that I heard Donna talk about, and I'm sure every gun control advocate has said at some point they want common sense gun control. Okay, well, let's see. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. When Andrea, being the first one to bring up and challenge Gunbroker, in this talk, she didn't even know that these guns actually do get shipped to an FFL, which that's not common sense. So why are we listening to these people, trying to control our firearms when we just saw a display of a lack of common sense? A lot of these people really don't know a lot about firearms at all, and I don't think they should be in charge of making our laws.
What is the thing you want to see, though?
I'd like to see them educate themselves on these things more before they speak.
Is there any policy you want to see changed?
I think there's a bunch we can change, but it's more the people making these policies should be more educated. And, again, common sense, just like knowing that if you're going to go after a site like Gunbroker, know that these firearms get shipped to an FFL. It's things like that, really.
I'm going to pass it over to Representative.
Yeah, I think we've heard a lot of consensus, actually, around safe gun storage. And how do we make sure that we have the proper statutes on the books and the enforcement mechanisms in place to make sure that we follow up and have accountability here. I don't know what that looks like exactly, but I think that's a place where we could have some common ground discussion about what can we do, because we already have some things on the books. So it's a matter of how do we enforce it. But I will also say that I think we also need a special session to be able to get this moving forward. But that would be a place I would start with doing a better job with safe storage.
Councilwoman?
Hi. Yeah, thank you. So this past week, many of you may have heard about the gun violence summit that was had. There were several council members there. Our DA, Jose Garza, hosted it. And what you might not know, there's 11 council members. There are 10 Democrat council members and 1 Republican. I happen to be the 1 Republican. Now, in the city, the political party that you're affiliated with shouldn't matter. Whatever you're doing is for the betterment of the whole community. But Jose Garza uninvited me to that gun summit because they almost had a quorum. And under posting rules for the Texas Open Meetings Act, they could not have a quorum of council members. Now, what I would like to see from our other elected officials is a more inclusive environment where we can actually sit down and talk about this, even if we have different political sides of the spectrum, because together we're stronger as elected officials who represent the city, and excluding people because of quorum issues is easy to get around if we post properly on the item. And so I would just ask that I'm included in the conversations so that I can represent the other side.
Well, I would like to see more education with regard to the discussion of the issues. Also, like I said earlier, enforcement is a huge issue, and the gentleman in the blue shirt is absolutely right in that hearing about the circumstances of this unfortunate murder, the DA, it sounds to me like, had the option of charging all 13 of those people under the Texas law of parties, which means that they could have all been charged with murder just like the shooter. And a DA that's not willing to undertake that, I think that, you really got to look at what his motives are. Also, I'd like to see more issues with regard to school safety. We don't seem to see mass shootings at private schools or inner city schools. So what are the inner city schools whenever you've got schools in Baltimore, Philadelphia, Chicago, where violence is raging all around the city, but yet there's no mass shootings in their schools? And so I think that we need to look at what they're doing as far as security measures, and unfortunately get our suburban and rural schools to start doing some of the same.
Jerry, what's one thing you want to see?
Well, I'll go back to my, it's a broken record, but I want everybody to stop with their cliches and their bumper sticker slogans that they have political capital invested in over a couple of decades, and recognize that in the case of school shooters, mass shooters, frequently they have identified, they've telegraphed their intentions ahead of time for weeks and months, and we need to find a way to separate them from their firearms.
Andrea?
First of all, my apologies if I misspoke about that. I have done the research. I've been out of the role of working, actually getting paid for this job for several years. I do know there is something, the law for within state is different than the law out of state. And certainly if you're shipping, it has to be to an FFL. But if you are meeting up, it does not have to be a background check. And so the private seller, so my point is private sellers, it's a problem. Universal background checks is the biggest thing that I would ask for. I think it saves lives. Second, us gun violence prevention advocates, we're not trying to control you. I hate the term gun control. We're not trying to control. We're trying to prevent gun violence. Thank you.
Lisa?
Real quick, I'll do real quick too. Again, safe storage too, I definitely agree with that. I think more awareness needs to be brought attention to what is safe storage, what does it look like, and what does it mean. I also do believe in training. We need to make sure we're doing safe practices. The fact that we don't have training anymore is a huge problem to me, and we don't have any PSAs, any announcements, anything educating on how people should be trained. Thirdly, I do believe that we need to take a look at the age and under the 21, and I think we need to have a real discussion about that as well.
30 seconds, Zach.
I don't mean to sound like echoing Edwin here, but as a firearm safety instructor, I'm a big fan of getting people educated, as long as it's not prohibitively expensive for poorer communities. Enforcement, we have hundreds of federal gun laws, tens of thousands of state and local laws, so just getting them enforced and hardening our schools.
All right, I want to thank everyone for coming out today. I want to thank KXAN for airing this. I want to thank Talk 1370 as well. Also want to thank the Cantor family for driving all this way. And, we have to remember Doug Cantor lost his life a year ago today. So I want to thank you, the family, and also the fiance of Doug Cantor as well. Safe storage, I think we can agree with that. Parenting, we can agree with that. Curfew, downtown, and also training. Thank you for listening to Come and Talk It.